Hi, I'm Rebecca from Oncrawl, and today we're going to talk about making sure that your website migration goes smoothly using our live log monitoring feature. For this exercise, we're going to say that you've prepared your migration already and you're almost ready to go live. You've probably already gone through your migration checklist, you've set up a staging site and compared it to your old site with a crawl over crawl, you've corrected any errors that showed, and you've created and implemented a redirect plan to move your old URLs to your new ones. If you haven't gone through this process, my fabulous technical SEO coworker Adeline has prepared a great guide with custom report templates to help you out every step of the way. The link to that is currently on this screen. However, if you've managed your migration differently, that's all right. You don't need to have run a crawl in Oncrawl to be able to follow this example. So at this point, you've just gone live. You want to make sure that your old URLs and your new URLs are performing the way they should. And the way that live log monitoring comes in is that there are elements that you need to be able to check immediately. In the case of old URLs, these are the response codes. You don't want to see any 200s or 404 response codes, which show that there are things that you might have forgotten to redirect. Within a short period of time, you'll also want to see that there are no more Googlebot hits on these particular pages. With your new URLs, you want to know immediately that there are no major errors with your migration, so you don't want to see 404 or 500 level errors with your new URLs. And then within, again, a short period of time, you do want to see an increase in Googlebot hits and in visits from search engine users, which in Oncrawl we call SEO visits. Now, to do this, we're going to start out with a segmentation, which is basically a way of just breaking down your site into old URLs and new URLs. So for this particular site, we moved from a old site structure, which mostly concentrated on dates to structure the URLs, to a new one, which is more based on semantics. Once we've set up the segmentation, we're going to go look at the log manager tools to make sure that your log data is set up correctly in order to be able to get the most out of live log monitoring for this period of migration. You'll want to have a upload frequency that is at least once per day. So you'll see here we have multiple times a day with a few files at each occasion. You might also want something like this, particularly during those first few hours or days of your migration, where you have an upload of multiple files, or at least one file, every hour or so. This will give you the most information as quickly as possible, instead of having to wait until the files are processed or aggregated, or even in the case of Google Search Console, made available. Once you've done that, you can go look at your log monitoring. Very simply, you just look at your normal log monitoring. In Oncrawl, this is very simple. It's available with all log monitoring under Live Log. The first thing we're going to look at are our old URLs. We want to make sure that we're looking at our segmentation for the migration and focusing on those old URLs. What we'd want to see are the status codes encountered by bots. We don't want these bots to be seeing 200 URLs in 200, because those are things that have not actually been migrated to the new site. These are something that we'd want to click through and find out when this happened, why it happened, and on what URLs. The next thing we want to make sure is going on is that there is a decline in Googlebot hits. Again, we're looking at this migration segmentation and focusing only on old URLs, so it's all right if I don't see very many hits here. What I do want to see, though, is a decline in hits rather than an increase. And here it looks like I have some Google Desktop and quite a few MobileBot hits. But globally, I don't see a constant presence of Googlebot on my site, which is a good thing on my old URLs. When we start looking at the new URLs, we want to do the same sort of thing. We want to first look at the status codes we're seeing. We don't want to see all of them. We want to just focus on the new URLs at this point. And here we see some things that might be of concern. We want to see an initial spike like this, where we have a large number of elements crawled, that most of them are 200 or 300. But if we do see 404s like this is something that we'd want to go look carefully at. For example, these 5 404s are something that I'd want to click through and see what happened to these pages here. Maybe it's something that I didn't redirect to the right URL. On a larger scale, we're then going to want to look to see the first Googlebot hits and the first search engine traffic. And in general, we want to focus on the new URLs, and we'll see, and since this is not an actual migration, it's hard to see here, but we should see something that looks more like this, where there is a steady increase in the number of Googlebot hits over time. If you want, you can change this to a different scale to see minutes or even days to give you a better sense of what that scale actually is. Depending on what type of site you have, you'll want to focus on different bots. These might be Googlebot Mobile, which we mostly see here, a little bit of Google Desktop, you might have some AdSense. But if you are, for example, a news site, you might have something that looks like this, where there's a different percentage of bots, and you might be very interested, for example, on those Google image bots, getting those images on your new site indexed. The other thing that you will want to look at this point is the acquisition of visitors from Google, so that organic traffic, which here you can see hour by hour. We have a sudden increase as things have gotten indexed and are beginning to gain traffic. Now that you've seen a few ways in which live log monitoring can help pave the way for a smoother migration, I hope your next one looks a little less daunting. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon. Happy crawling!